Welcome to the Geostrategic Podcast.
Welcome back to the deep dive, and thank you for tuning in. A new shadow is rising over the Taiwan Strait, and it's not American. China has just unveiled the Z-20T, a helicopter the world is calling the Black Hawk killer. Armed, fast, and built for high-altitude warfare, this machine could change the air balance from Tibet to Taipei. Analysts warn it's more than just a new aircraft, it's the centerpiece of Beijing's next-generation strike doctrine. So, how dangerous is the Z-20T really? Let's break it down.
Okay.
Let's unpack this. We've got quite a bit of material here on the Z-20, this heavily armed version of their Z-20 utility helicopter. Our goal today really is to look beyond just the specs, the numbers, and dig into the strategic shift this thing represents for the PLA Army Aviation Corps.
Absolutely. The timing is significant too.
Yeah.
Unveiling it at the 2025 Tianjin Helicopter Exhibition wasn't just a reveal, it was, a statement. It signals that China sees itself not just catching up in air assault tech, but setting its own path now.
Right. But let's start with the machine itself. Everyone immediately jumps to the Black Hawk comparison. It looks similar in some ways. What's the key thing, the feature that makes people say this is maybe more than just a copy? Why Black Hawk Plus?
Well, the plus really comes down to the tech inside, and crucially the fact that it's their tech. Technical sovereignty. Yes, it shares that compact profile with the UH-60, but the guts are different. We're talking fly-by-wire flight controls, a 5-blade main rotor. These are advanced features.
Okay, fly-by-wire. For listeners who aren't pilots, what does that really mean in a fight? What's the advantage?
It means the pilot isn't wrestling with direct mechanical linkages. Computers mediate the control inputs. And the payoff is, twofold. First, much quicker responsiveness. Think evasion, tight maneuvers. Second, it provides much better stability, especially in gusty winds or the turbulent air you find at high altitudes. That's a real performance edge in tough conditions.
And that altitude point brings us straight to the engine, doesn't it? The WZ-10 turboshaft, made in China. The sources really hammer this point. Designed for hot and high zones, Tibet, Xinjiang. How does that specific need tie into China's bigger picture military strategy?
It ties in directly. That WZ-10 engine is, you could say, physical proof of their push for strategic sovereignty. You have to remember, AVAC, that's the state aviation company, developed this partly because the U.S. stopped selling them Blackhawks after Tiananmen Square back in '89.
Right. So that ban actually forced their hand.
It forced them to invest massively in developing their own comparable or even better domestic designs. It fundamentally shifted their approach.
So operating high up isn't just tactical for the border regions, it's a direct result of that decades-old U.S. decision.
Precisely. It pushed them towards total logistical independence. They wanted to guarantee their own supply chains, their own parts, maintenance, especially in a crisis. That gives the PLA a huge operational advantage. They don't need anyone else's permission or parts to keep flying.
Okay, so the platform itself is independent and capable. Now let's talk about the T in Z-20T. The attack capability. This isn't just a transport anymore. Walk us through the weapons. What are commanders actually putting on those wing pylons?
The flexibility is really the story here. It lets the PLA shift from just moving troops to launching precision strikes because the two hard points on each side. Primarily for anti-tank roles, you're looking at two main missile types. There's the AKD-10 that's semi-active laser guided, about a 7-kilometer range. And then there's the AKD-21, which is, quite a bit more advanced.
The AKD-21 millimeter wave radar guidance, right? And the range is
18 kilometers. That's significant.
18 kilometers. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, an 18-kilometer reach is a big deal. But it's not just anti-tank. It's versatile. You can load it up with 57-millimeter rocket pods for area suppression or put heavy machine guns on the side doors, covering troops as they disembark. And there's a 30-millimeter cannon option for frontal attacks, too.
So that 18-kilometer range for the AKD-21, for you listening, what does that really mean on the battlefield? How does that change things for the pilot and for the troops on the ground facing it?
It means a much greater standoff distance. The helicopter can engage and destroy key armored targets from well outside the reach of many common short-range air defense systems, man-pads, things like that. So the Z-20T can hit important targets deeper behind lines and then get out, minimizing its exposure to the densest air defenses. It forces the defenders to react much faster or push their defenses further out.
And it must have some way to defend itself against other aircraft, especially in a crowded airspace like potentially over Taiwan.
It does, yeah. It's expected to carry the TY-90 air-to-air missile. That gives it a fighting chance against enemy helicopters, or, increasingly important these days, enemy drones. That self-defense layer is critical for an assault helicopter.
The hardware is clearly impressive, very capable, but as we said, the real deep dive here is the doctrine. How is the PLA actually using the Z-20T? How does it fit into their structure?
Right. The Z-20T isn't just a piece of equipment. It's the centerpiece, really, for their new air attack brigades. These brigades are China's take on modern air mobility warfare. They've clearly studied Western experiences like the U.S. in Iraq and Afghanistan, but they've tailored it specifically for the kind of high-speed, high-altitude operations they anticipate in their main potential theaters.
So it's not flying solo. It's part of a team, a system.
Exactly. It functions within what they call integrated hunter-destroyer teams. You'll see the Z-20T working alongside the dedicated attack helicopters like the Z-10 and the lighter Z-19. And very importantly, alongside unmanned systems for reconnaissance and targeting. The training reports we see emphasize things like complex night operations, and specifically anti-A2AD drills breaking through those anti-access bubbles. They often use that Z-20T-Z-10 combo. One suppresses defenses, the other goes for the objective, clearing the way.
And there's a strong naval link too, right? A focus on amphibious operations, which obviously points towards island scenarios.
That amphibious angle is critical. These air assault brigades train closely with the Navy's landing ships, the Type 071s, and the big Type 075 helicopter carriers. This allows them to perform vertical envelopment landing troops and sensors by helicopter behind coastal defenses, potentially hours before the main landing force hits the beaches.
Which, again, drastically cuts down the defender's reaction time.
Precisely. And the Z-20T is so key to this that they're already developing specific marine versions. The Z-20F is confirmed, and there are rumors of a Z-20H variant as well.
Okay, let's pivot to the big picture, the strategic implications. This is what really matters for the Indo-Pacific balance. How does the Z-20T change the game, specifically thinking about a potential Taiwan conflict? What can Beijing do now that maybe they couldn't do as effectively before?
Well, it adds a potent vertical dimension to any cross-strait operation. It gives them a much more credible capability to insert assault forces behind Taiwan's coastal defenses during the initial critical phases of an amphibious landing. It makes that joint landing on the island doctrine, that rapid thrust, much more viable. It means defenses can't just focus on the beaches anymore. The threat can come from above, deep inland, much faster.
But that WZ-10 engine, the high-altitude focus, that message seems aimed west, too, towards India. Is the capability in Tibet almost as significant strategically as the Taiwan implications?
It definitely changes the dynamics along the LAC, the line of actual control with India. Having a helicopter that can reliably operate carrying meaningful payloads in that extreme hot and high environment gives the PLA real tactical flexibility they lacked before. Older helicopters really struggled up there, so yes, it potentially shifts the air mobility balance in that very difficult terrain, giving them options for moving troops or supplies that weren't practical previously.
And then looking south, towards the South China Sea, supporting maritime claims.
Absolutely. It fits right into their Blue Sea strategy. The Z-20T operating off the big Type 075 LHDs, that extends their reach significantly. It allows for more persistent power projection, surveillance, and potentially rapid response capabilities across the first island chain in disputed areas in the South China Sea.
We keep coming back to this logistical independence point. Let's nail that down. In a major conflict scenario like Taiwan, why is that self-sufficiency, that strategic sovereignty, such a powerful advantage for the PLA?
Because modern warfare eats equipment. Sustainment is everything in a protracted fight. Having domestic production lines, not depending on foreign suppliers for critical parts or maintenance expertise during wartime, that's huge. It means they can likely maintain higher operational tempos, replace losses faster, and keep flying missions when an opponent relying on external support might start to falter. It allows them to potentially sustain a high-intensity campaign for longer.
So, summing it up then, the Z-20T isn't just a new helicopter hitting the scene. It represents a fully integrated, data-capable, domestically produced system. And it signals a doctrine that puts China's air assault capabilities, arguably, on par with leading Western forces, plus that crucial logistical independence.
It's a very clear signal, yes. China's military modernization is comprehensive and moving fast. This high-tech, homegrown rotary wing platform shows their growing maturity as a military aviation power. And, well, planners from New Delhi to Washington are definitely taking notice and recalculating.
And the sources suggest the next evolution is already underway, deeper integration with unmanned systems, UAS. You have to imagine this multi-layered network drones finding targets Z-20Ts and Z-10s striking, all linked together. The Z-20T becomes a crewed node and potentially much larger, faster, partially automated combat system. That seems to be the future Beijing is actively building right now. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you gained some surprising insights into the Z-20T and what it means for the wider region. We invite you to explore and listen to our other deep dives for more in-depth analyses. If you found this discussion valuable, please like, share, and subscribe to the Geostrategic Podcast for more in-depth analysis on topics that shape our world. Stay informed, stay ahead, and stay tuned for the next episode.